What's up, guys? So my friend Joshua saw the video that I did on a quick little spiel about the soft parts of the Mandalorian armor, so he actually asked about the actual armor part, so I'm going to be doing that now. I'm just going to give a quick spiel in case you're wondering what material you should use, and luckily I've actually used quite a few of them, so I'm going to give a quick spiel. There's typically three main materials that people use when making Mandalorian armor, and that's usually foam, 3D printing, or Sentra. I'm going to go through each, but real quick, I'm just going to explain the basics. Foam, people say, is the cheapest. Me personally, unless you get like higher grade foam, because what I did with Lily's armor was I got regular EVA foam from like Michael's, and I had to get like rapid fill and a whole bunch of other stuff to actually coat it with and sand it so I could get the porous like material to be smooth to make it actually look like metal, and it actually cost me a decent amount. And it's also not as durable. Like, it works, but it is definitely not nearly as durable as like a hard thing. So if you work with foam and you're used to it and it works great for you, then I say go for it. It can be a cheaper option, but you have to think about stuff. If you're going for approval with some of the costume clubs, not all of them except foam, but it is a choice, and it does work. To use foam, you're basically going to have to use a heat gun. You can use a hair dryer. Honestly, heat gun works better. And you just kind of shape it, and then I would suggest using a kind of like a rubber cement to actually glue it together. And it does hold pretty strong. Like, these two pieces are actually two pieces stacked on top of each other, and it holds pretty well. This actually is 3mm EVA foam, so you don't need a ton of thickness. As far as if you're going for hard part armor, let's start with the helmet. Arguably your most important part of your Mandalorian kit. There's basically two ways that I've seen it done. You can do a scratch build, or people tend to most of the time do a 3D printed helmet or a resin cast. This is resin cast. Me personally, I want resin cast because it is the most durable to me. I know a lot of people who 3D print their helmets, and it's a little bit easier to break a 3D printed helmet than a resin one. And for me, I really like a helmet that's gonna be okay for a long time. But if you want a 3D printed helmet, no problem. It'll work just fine. As far as the rest of your armor goes, when we're talking about 3D printed stuff, my armor is a mixture of like everything almost. So my chest plate is 3D printed. It's pretty good. If you're going for like a post-Imperial look, like what you see on the show The Mandalorian, honestly, I would suggest going 3D print. It's really good for that. All you have to do is, most of the time anyway, spray some filler primer on it, sandable filler primer, and then go over it with like a 400 grit sandpaper with a wet sanding. And anything that's like really rough, get some Mando, sand it off, works perfectly great. Another way that people do stuff is they use Sentra. Some of my armor is actually made of Sentra. This one right here is made of 6mm Sentra here, and then the top part here is 3mm. This is honestly, it works just like EVA foam, except it's plastic. So you use a heat gun to shape it, works perfectly fine. Honestly, I feel like it's the best middle ground if you want something that's more cheap but also durable. I'd go with Sentra. Fun thing also is if it breaks, you can use UV resin and some fiberglass to do this hatching effect, and fixes it right up. The third other way that I would suggest specifically for knees is to get sort of a resin print for your knees. I got these from Kalevala Armory on Etsy. Fantastic. It's just movable enough to where it won't hurt and you can actually kneel, and it's great. There are other ways you can get your armor. For example, Mandalorian the Fireborn actually has vacuum formed like thighs and stuff. All of those work perfectly fine. The main thing you want to do is you want to sand it to actually get rid of the print lines. And the way you can do that is with Mando, and then spray with filler primer. Might take a few coats, sand it with wet sand wet sand it with like 400 grit, 800 grit sandpaper, and you're golden. I'll probably make another video that can go over painting, but in general, those are the ways you can make armor with what materials. It basically depends on what you want. Honestly, if you want like a modern style, like a Boba Fett style, Sentra all the way, it's all you need. If you want a post-imperial, I'd probably suggest going with the 3D printed. If you want a legacy style, you could go either or. And if you just want to make it out of EVA foam, that works too. If you have the money and the capability to resin cast all of this, I am jealous of you. If you have the money to make it all out of rubber, I'm also jealous of you. But that's the video, and I hope this was helpful to at least some of you. So, see you next time.